Hello and welcome back to Better Know a Poet. Today we're skipping I and going to J. I looked through and there were no names I recognized of poets whose last name began with I. I think there may be several that are non-European. We may explore those later, but for right now, we are just going from H to J. There are two major poets in the English canon whose last names begin with J, and they're both Jonson. Ben Jonson and Samuel Johnson. They're spelled differently. Samuel Johnson's with an H, Ben Johnson's without one, but those are the two major poets from the English tradition whose last names begin with J. So today we're going to look at Ben Jonson. So this is Ben Jonson. Both are from the 17th century. Ben Jonson was born in London in 1572. He was an English dramatist, lyric poet, and literary critic. Jonson is considered one of the greatest playwrights of the Jacobean era, second only to Shakespeare himself. As a side note, Christopher Marlowe was killed in 1593, 10 years before the reign of James I began, so he wouldn't have been in the Jacobean era. If he had been, Jonson probably would have been considered the third greatest, Christopher Marlowe being the second. Jonson was born 2 months after the death of his biological father. His stepfather was a bricklayer, but like Shakespeare before him, Jonson was able to attend a classical grammar school in Westminster. His formal education ended when he was apprenticed to a local bricklayer, but he then fought for a time with the English army in the Netherlands. After returning to England, Jonson became a strolling player and playwright for Philip Henslowe. In this role, he wrote a number of early plays now known only by their titles. Jonson's fortunes turned, however, in 1598 when his play Every Man in His Humour was performed by the Lord Chamberlain's men. Legend has it that Shakespeare himself recommended the play to the company. In this play, the four main characters are representations of the four humors of medieval and Renaissance medicine: choler, melancholy, phlegm, and blood. His next play, Every Man Out of His Humour, proved to be a disaster. However, Jonson was able to turn to the private children's theaters and wrote plays for them for the next 5 years. Beginning in 1605, Jonson began to contribute royal masques for the courts of James I. This was a practice he would continue for the next 30 years, contributing masques for Charles I's court as well. Eventually, Jonson's fame led him to be appointed as the first poet laureate of Protestant England. In 1628, Jonson suffered a debilitating stroke, which confined him to his room. And in 1637, Jonson died and was buried in Westminster Abbey. Jonson's plays are well regarded even today as some of the greatest in the 17th century drama. These include works such as Every Man in His Humour, Volpone or The Fox, The Alchemist, Epicoene, and Bartholomew Fair. And what I'm going to read today is a poem he wrote to William Shakespeare. So this was after Shakespeare's death. This is one of the greatest, what's called an ode. It's a poem celebrating Shakespeare. It's one of the greatest odes in the English language. So this is to the memory of my beloved, the author, Mr. William Shakespeare, and what he hath left us. To draw no envy, Shakespeare, on thy name, am I thus ample to thy book and fame, while I confess thy writings to be such as neither man nor muse can praise too much. 'Tis true, and all men's suffrage, but these ways were not the paths I meant unto thy praise. For silliest ignorance on these may light, which, when it sounds at best, but echoes right, or blind affection, which doth ne'er advance the truth, but gropes and urgeth all by chance. Or crafty malice might pretend this praise, and think to ruin where it seemed to raise. These are as some infamous bawd or whore should praise a matron. What could hurt her more? But thou art proof against them, and indeed above the ill fortune of them or the need. I therefore will begin. Soul of the age, the applause, delight, the wonder of our stage, my Shakespeare rise, I will not lodge thee by Chaucer or Spenser, or bid Beaumont lie a little further to make thee a room. Thou art a monument without a tomb, and art alive still while thy book doth live, and we have wits to read and praise to give. That I not mix thee so, my brain excuses. I mean with great, but disproportioned muses. For if I thought my judgment were of years, I should commit thee surely with thy peers, and tell how far thou didst our Lily outshine, or sporting Kid, or Marlowe's mighty line. For though thou hadst small Latin and less Greek, from thence to honour thee I would not seek. For names but call forth thundering Aeschylus, Euripides, and Sophocles to us. Pacuvius, Accius, him of Cordova dead, to life again, to hear thy buskin tread, and shake a stage, or when thy socks were on, leave thee alone for the comparison of all that insolent Greece or haughty Rome sent forth or since did from their ashes come. Triumph, my Britain! Thou hast one to show to whom all scenes of Europe homage owe. He was not of an age, but for all time, and all the muses still were in their prime. When like Apollo he came forth to warm our ears, or like a Mercury to charm, Nature herself was proud of his designs, and joyed to wear the dressing of his lines, which were so richly spun and woven so fit, and since she will not vouchsafe no other wit, the merry Greek, tart Aristophanes, neat Terence, witty Plautus, not now please, but antiquated and deserted lie, as they were not of nature's family. Yet must I give thee nature all. Yet must I not give nature all. Thy art, my gentle Shakespeare, must enjoy a part. For though the poet's matter nature be, his art doth give the fashion, and that he who casts to write a living line must sweat, such as thine are, and strike the second heat, upon the muse's anvil, turn the same, upon himself with it, that he thinks to frame, or for the laurel he may gain a scorn, for a good poet's made as well as born. And such wert thou. Look how the Father's face lives in his issue. Even so the race of Shakespeare's mind in manners brightly shines, in his well turned and true filled lines, in each of which he seems to shake a lance, as brandished at the eyes of ignorance. Sweet swan of Avon, what a sight it were to see thee in our waters yet appear, and make those flights upon the banks of Thames that so did take Eliza and our James. But stay, I see thee in the hemisphere, advanced and made a constellation there. Shine forth, thou star of poets, and with rage or influence chide or cheer the drooping stage, which, since thy flight from hence, hath mourned like night, and despair's day, but for thy volume's light. See you tomorrow.